Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm looking at The Incredible Hulk number 342. If you are new to the channel, I've been doing a series of this, reading this run from the first Peter David issue with McFarlane through current, and I'm going to keep on going until I just run out of steam or the run ends, whichever comes first. If you're enjoying this, please drop a like. Drop a comment. Let me know. Let me know what you don't like. If you got some kind of insight that I don't mention, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Now that I got that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about this cover. With issue 340, we started getting McFarlane covers again. So far, we've gotten that iconic Hulk Wolverine cover, pretty cool Hulk Man-Bull cover, and now we get a big leader kind of taking up a huge section of the cover here. The return of this character, Half-Life, who we met, I think about 6 or so issues ago. He's another gamma-irradiated character. I just see McFarlane's name on this, so I'm going to assume that he inked this by himself on this one. I don't know what you want to call his head. I always called him the popcorn head. Some people call it a more crude version, resembling some male anatomy. If that's what you want to go with that. The handlebar mustache. Look at these giant teeth, too. These long, giant teeth. He did everything but make them spiky. And he even gave him, like, pointy fingernails and stuff. I mean, McFarlane really took these villain redesigns in a very 80s horror monster direction. He would do it later in Spider-Man with, like, the lizard and stuff. You know, the pointy, jagged teeth and everything. He was already drawing some things kind of like this at DC in the Invasion miniseries that kind of resembled the leader. All of this was not known to me as a kid, though, when I was reading this for the first time. I look back on that. That's something you see it now. But let's go ahead and jump on in. Start with the scene of our character Half-Life. And he's going to, talk to this woman on the street who's, walking alone at night. Setting the mood here. There's some fog going on. I like the way he did the background of the buildings. They're kind of scratchy looking. It's setting a mood, an ominous mood. Close up of her eyes when he says, "Barbara." And she just kind of looks like, who are you talking about? My name's not Barbara. So Half-Life's thing is he was a professor that got hit with or caught in like a gamma bomb test, a recent one, which is how the Hulk learned about these gamma bomb stockpile. That's kind of set up our whole plot going forward in this storyline. Anyhow, so he's calling her Barbara because that's his wife, and he's pretending like, "Oh, don't you remember me?" And like when he touches her, it sucks all of her like life force away. They draw her green, so I guess it's gamma irradiating her as well, and leaves her for dead. And she was reading a book. I'm okay, you're okay. And this is the most we're getting of the leader's plan so far. For the past few issues, we've only gotten like 1 or 2 pages of the leader, but this is the one where it really comes into focus, like what his plan is and why the Hulk is involved. More or less, there's a revenge aspect to the Hulk here. The Hulk has always been the thorn in the leader's side for some reason. Despite his great intellect, he's never been able to defeat the Hulk fully. And we've got a new, smarter, wittier Hulk here, but he only turns into the Hulk at night. So the leader is actually doing like a dictation recording of his plans. He's monologuing for the Hulk to hear, and he only expects the Hulk to hear it at the last minute that his plan is being executed. He thinks he's going to pull a Ozymandias here and kind of like, "Oh, the plan's already going. This is what it is," and boom, you're dead. That's kind of his plan. And we get like some set pieces happening, like 3 legs and like some stasis tubes here. We're sketching out some kind of armor here. And Half-Life is saying, well, I think we're going into like a little bit of a flashback. Half-Life is wanting another chance at the Hulk to do right by his boss. And the leader mounts a camera to his chest, and he's kind of, there's some pretty good dialogue here about, he's like, you couldn't do it last time, you're not going to do it this time. And, but go ahead, take your shot. Shoot your shot, bro. I love this leader outfit here that McFarlane draws. This is kind of a thing too. These like big padded ankle braces and arm things too. Is that just like an 80s thing for these guys that came up in this time to draw costumes with that kind of stuff? Anyway, he goes on and he kind of explains how he's been able to keep track of the Hulk. And he says it's because he has a psychic bond with Rick Jones from where he siphoned off the gamma off of Rick when Rick was a Hulk at the start of the Peter David run. And that's created a psychic bond to where he is able to kind of know where Rick is and what he's up to. And he can also play the harmonica and acoustic guitar. Cut back to Alan Quartermain's home. This is where we left off last issue with the Man Bull, and they are trying to hack into the S.H.I.E.L.D. database to find these gamma bombs. And by doing so, they don't realize that the leader now knows where the gamma bombs are as well. So Clay's brother Alan determines there's 5,000 gamma bombs stored in a military base in Yuma, Arizona underground. So that's where we're going to be headed. So now they know where they're going. His wife is in the kitchen. All of a sudden, here comes Half-Life. Love this shot of the Hulk right here, busting through his barn. He's already destroyed a lot of his farm equipment from the Man Bull fiasco in the last issue. Now he's just going to go ahead and take the rest of his little computer lab that he has out in the shed or whatever. So the Hulk's just wreaking havoc. Half-Life's coming through the window to get the wife, and the Hulk pulls him out and immediately starts to feel weak. And that's just a great panel there, too, of the Hulk's face with some confusion. Look at those big, chunky fingers. Half-Life jumps on him. He's got some new armor made out of titanium, but he says the Hulk can't rip that apart. Now, I don't know about that. I would think the Hulk could rip it apart, particularly wherever it meets at the seams. But because Half-Life is also siphoning off his power right here, it does make him too weak to do it. So that does make sense. Got an awesome profile view of the leader here, and he makes kind of light of, oh, Hulk, you've got problems, but I have problems too, such as S.H.I.E.L.D's looking for me out there as well. Kind of a humorous scene right here. So this is Larroquette and Sanders, who were part of the Hulkbusters, and they're with this guy, Agent Trump, who was a S.H.I.E.L.D. operative at Gamma Base. And they're kind of laughing about a press conference that blew up in their face in the last issue. And he's like, well, at least Nick Fury doesn't know about it. Well, guess who's right there? Nick Fury. And Fury's like, who are these two guys? I want them out of here. And Larroquette's like, you can't do that. And then the next panel, I was sure he couldn't do that. So they're out on the street. So these guys have been hanging around Gamma Base. They've kind of been a thorn in Banner / the Hulk / Clay's side in the early part of the run. And now it looks like they're just, okay, they're out of work. They're not part of this anymore. Back to the Hulk, taking on Half-Life. Rick steps in to help a little bit. He's able to throw him away. And the Hulk starts feeling like weak and a little scared. He's scared of being weak, which is a theme of the issue going on. And that's what Alan calls him out on, because over here, I think the Hulk is like, he's like, we know what we need to know. Let's get out of here. So the Hulk is willing to run away because he hates this feeling that Half-Life is making him have this weak feeling. And Alan calls him out and calls him scared. Look at this panel here. That's a great one, too. Scared? So I guess that's like the Hulk being called chicken, right? I'm the Hulk. And uh-oh, somebody's got their second win. So the Hulk figures it out like, okay, I can't get close to you. I'm just going to batter you with this. He calls it a 10-foot pole, but it's obviously like a 30-foot pole. A power line pole there. But the thing is Half-Life now has siphoned off enough of the Hulk's energy that he's strong. I mean, look at that face there, too. McFarlane's having some fun with this, like, regenerating zombie of Half-Life. Half-Life is also, like, quoting Shakespeare and Thoreau and stuff through this because he was an English professor. So keep that in mind as it goes through. Another great little action sequence here, jumping up. At least it looks like a full moon. So the moon has been playing a big part in this series so far, because the fuller the moon, the more docile, or I don't want to say weak, but the Hulk is not at his best when the moon is full. In almost every issue, it's either been half full, or we haven't really gotten like a new moon one. The closest was the Wolverine issue. There was a blizzard that obscured the moon so that the Hulk was able to, be at his full strength. So he jumps up, and then he just comes like straight down on Half-Life. So this is a great face too. Look at that hollow eye. And these little noodly marks. Oh man. He is going crazy with the noodly marks. Noodle, noodle, noodle. The Hulk thinks he's got him buried for a second, but of course, you got the little, confusion star bubbles coming out as Half-Life is grabbing hold of his leg. Great leader throne picture here. This is a good 2-page spread altogether. Got an awesome looking leader here. He's talking about Betty and how Betty's going to come into his plans. And then even this like profile here where he's coming up with these machines, and he's talking about how he's like capturing Betty, and here he's capturing Sanders and Larroquette. So the leader's plans coming together. Come back to the letters page in a minute. This is the first 2-page spread so far in McFarlane's run. He's not done this at all in this series, and it's a pretty good one. Although you've got a weakened Hulk here. He's definitely atrophied from the energy being siphoned off of him. And then look at Half-Life. He's almost handsome. That wild hair. That just cracks me up. Every time I look at McFarlane hair, especially from this era, it's absurd. It's truly absurd. There's your full moon going on. They don't really mention in this issue, though. Every other issue, they've talked about the moon, but in this one, they don't, so you just kind of got to take note of it. There, he's even like looking more muscular. So this part is a little confusing. Essentially, Half-Life thinks that he's going to siphon off enough energy that's going to cure him, and he's going to be able to return to his wife and live out a happily normal life. But what he is failing to realize is that he's constantly going to be draining whoever he's around. That's not going to change. And part of him being called Half-Life is because during the daytime he's dead. He just collapses. And at nighttime he rises up and has this power. And the Hulk kind of reminds him of this in this conversation up here. Because the Hulk says, "You'll be begging for death. You're living in a dream world, Tony. You really think you can just start over? You'll just spend your days terrifying people and waiting for the energy you've stolen to wear off so you'll be like you were, or even worse. If death is here for me, I'm not afraid, but you're going to be afraid of living." And he kind of agrees, and then I don't know what he does. Like, turns his power in on himself, and kaboom. Like fraccoon. Look at this like skinny Hulk. This is the Hulk being blasted back. So I don't know exactly what he did there. Anyway, so that's the end of Half-Life. Hulk is already starting to regenerate, and there's Half-Life full on dead. And that's the end of him. And it didn't really make a lot of sense. That felt very MacGuffin-y to get them out of this situation. And, the way the Half-Life character ended before was pretty neat, with the Hulk just like ripping his limbs off and throwing them in different directions. But of course the leader got him and put him back together. And now they're off. Look, here's their shield van, which has like a cloaking device. And they said it looks like a Pizza Hut van now. I don't know what the Pizza Hut van was at the time. Cut back to the leader. He's kind of finishing up, like he sees that Half-Life wasn't able to do it. So he's going to like finish out the rest of his plan here. Nice like hopping up, giving himself a good stretch, very casual. And then he goes over and he sees, Betty and Larroquette and Sanders. Man, he makes Larroquette look quite hulking himself here. He hasn't really been that big this whole time. Then he says, how odd. The life monitors are picking up 4 life readings, but there are only 3. Oh, of course. The game becomes more and more entertaining every day. And that's where we left off. So now we kind of know, what the leader was up to as far as, trying to find the bombs and how he was able to. He hadn't really been interfering with the Hulk, though, so some of that was a little awkward. We'd just kind of seen him every now and then, dealing with, military people and stuff, in Washington, and using his little, mind takeover power that he has. So, you got more leader to this issue, and as we're barreling towards the conclusion of this storyline with the Gamma bombs and stuff. Real quick, just going to jump back to the letters page for a minute. This one is about the 336 issue with X Factor. And and of course people are just, they're all praising Todd, saying it's the best work he's done. Some people were praising the covers, saying that they didn't get too busy because a team up or a big brawl of multiple characters can sometimes just get a little crowded. Todd didn't do those covers though. And the first one, the one that these letters are from, it's not really the better of the 2 covers. Anyway, that one was interesting. And then there was another one praising Peter David for the creation of the side characters. If you go back and watch my episode on that one, he had this character that found Bruce in an alleyway in the morning, and he turned him into X Factor because he saw him transform from the Hulk, thought he was a mutant, called X Factor in. But then he had his own little personal drama going on with his girlfriend who was pregnant, and they had to have a serious discussion and stuff. And they're basically praising Peter David's ability to introduce and develop these characters in this single issue, because they're done by the end of the issue. We don't see them again. I thought that was interesting that somebody wrote in pointing that out. And then one person, I can't remember which letter it is here, one person overall was heaping praise on the issue, but felt like Iceman's ability to stop the Hulk by enclosing him in ice was weakening the Hulk, and he didn't like that. He didn't like that the Hulk seemed not as powerful as the Green Hulk was. Now, he said he thought the Hulk would eventually bust out of it, and he does. I thought it made sense. Even the Green Hulk would get captured often, but I think it made sense for Bobby to freeze him in more or less a giant glacier that he just couldn't move in. So it had to melt a little bit, and the ice structure itself had to weaken just enough for the Hulk to burst out of the next issue. Anyway, some interesting comments. I like looking at the letters page. I always look to see if there's any, future creators in it. There's only 3 letters or 4 in this one, and I don't recognize any of these names, but it's always interesting to get a pulse on what the readers were liking about the book in of the time. So that's all I got for this one. I'll be back soon with 343. Until then, read your comics.